And now I have the great pleasure of introducing Edgewood College's 7th president, Dr. Scott Flanagan. For those of you who may be new to the institution, Dr. Flanagan is beginning his 17th year at the college, after most recently serving as our executive vice president. Now, assuming the presidency, he is poised to integrate his deep knowledge of this college with his own version and vision of what we must pursue if we are to continue to be a college of choice and to ensure that our best days are indeed ahead of us. This morning, in his first public presentation to our college as president, Dr. Flanagan will be sharing aspects that will be central to his presidency, and he will be discussing what he feels are the essential questions that we must be keeping in front of us if we are to be our best selves. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Scott Flanagan, our 7th president, to the stage. Scott?
Thank you for that warm welcome. I've got to confess I'm a little bit relieved and a little bit disappointed at the same thing, actually. There was a lot of talk in the past few days about that introduction, and you should know that dry ice and eye of the tiger were phrases that actually did come up. So I got to confess I'm relieved that didn't happen, but the tiny part. Just a little bit. Why are we here today? I'm not going to ask for the philosophers to answer the existential version of that. I won't ask the scientists to walk us through the past few millennia about that. I'm looking for something not quite that big, but a little bit bigger than because my boss told me I had to. Why are we here? What's our common purpose? What brings together so many people from so many different backgrounds with so many skill sets to this special place today? I believe there are a few things. I think it starts with a shared belief in the importance of education. You've heard that from this podium many times that students are at the center of all we do. And that's true. But I suspect there are a lot of places that would make a similar claim. So what's special about this place? We further believe that through education, we can build a better world. As our mission statement says, a more just and compassionate world. This idea of education with a purpose builds on our Dominican studium of study, reflection, and action, which of course is echoed in our promise to help students connect learning, beliefs, and action. And even further, we believe in a certain type of education. We believe the foundation of all that we do is in the liberal arts, that a truly educated person must have the skills and habits that such an educational experience engenders. We believe in excellence in teaching and learning, that it's our unique responsibility to create an educational environment where students are both challenged and supported. This means each of us is an educator through what we say and what we do and how we say and do it. And it makes all of us scholars as we try to learn more, reflect on our own practices, and be open to what happens around us. We believe our best work is done, not in isolation, but as a community of engaged learners, working together toward a common purpose. And we know we're successful only when every member of our community feels free and feels safe to be their best, genuine self. That's what an inclusive campus community looks like. And we believe community has an external dimension as well, that we're called to live and serve as members not only of this campus community, but also as engaged citizens, scholars, servants, and leaders within our broader world. And we believe that's part of our institutional responsibility too, that Edgewood College is an important part of the higher education world and of the greater Madison community. And this builds on the tradition of Samuel Mazzucchelli, who worked so closely with many communities in our state so many years ago. So what? You know all this already, right? You've read through all those documents. You've participated in crafting and articulating this. Well, I think this is really important because Mary talked about intersections. One of the key challenges we face on an ongoing basis is to reconcile two values that can sometimes be in competition: continuity and change. Now, the pace of higher education seems to be changing or open to change at a pretty rapid pace, whether it's competency-based education, greater pressure on affordability and completion, increasing research into how people learn, eroding financial models, all the rest. These are parts of the new reality that we're growing into. But I don't believe that success in this model requires that we abandon what we believe in. In fact, I believe that our success will be based on redoubling our commitment to those values up here in those essential elements of an Edgewood College experience that we have articulated. And at the same time, that we maintain the mental and the organizational agility to express those beliefs differently as we change, as we learn, and as the world around us changes. In other words, it's our responsibility to ensure continuity in why we do our work and what we do, our mission, our identity, our values, and those essential components of an Edgewood College education. And if we're to meet the needs of the day and the future, which is also part of our responsibility, we have to remain open to how we carry that out. It's naive, I think, to suggest that there won't be tension between these values sometimes. There will be. There should be. Part of engaging as a community, though, means we don't shut down. Right? We don't just shut down. We don't go to separate camps and lob verbal grenades at each other, right? Or we don't pretend that such tension doesn't exist. Instead, we're called to participate in the often messy, sometimes difficult, and always imperfect process of dialogue. And that's the only way, I believe, that we're going to be able to ensure continuity about those things that matter most and change in a way that reflects the needs of the world around us. Dean talked about some questions, and I think there are really four primary questions that we need to address. In many ways, my job is to make sure that we answer those questions and go about executing our answers to those in the short term, and that we keep asking them on a recurring basis as we look forward. It's our responsibility to look forward. It's not our responsibility to defend the present or cling to the past, but rather to build an even greater future. So those forward-looking questions include these. How do we ensure that the educational environments we create continue to be consistent with our beliefs and that they meet the needs of students in our society today and into the future? The second one, how do we define, articulate, and deliver on our unique impact on the world, particularly in the greater Madison area? Third, how do we build financial models that support and sustain the kind of educational environment that our students expect and deserve? And finally, how do we do this work together as a community of learners? The President's Council, my leadership group, recently completed its summer work of reviewing our strategic plan and defining focus areas for the year. Would members of the President's Council please stand up? They didn't know I was going to do this, so it was going to be a participation piece. So, Mike Guns, our Chief Financial Officer, Dean Pribino, our Vice President for Academic Affairs, Christine Benedict, our Vice President for Enrollment Management, Maggie Balistreri-Clark, our VP for Student Development and Dean of Students, and I'm pleased to offer special thanks and welcome to Katie Vesperman, who's overseeing our advancement office while we're in an interim period. Please join me in thanking these folks for their work. So we've defined 5 focus areas, which are areas that require involvement, participation by a large number of folks across campus, and that we think are important in advancing the work of the college going forward. Each of these is forward-looking, builds on our past and our current situation, and does so with an eye to the future. The first one pertains to that topic of the educational experience, the first question that I raised. Dean and Maggie articulated a series of questions that we'll begin to engage in as a community today pertaining to teaching and learning. First question is, who are our students and who will they be? That's followed in pretty short order by what are our students' needs now and into the future. And finally, what are the implications for teaching, learning, and educational frameworks going forward? And we need to be prepared to follow these questions wherever they take us, as long as it's in a manner consistent with those core values. And that really is at the heart of what we're doing. The second area that I mentioned was in the area of community impact. We'll be extending the topic of partnership, building on the work of the past couple of years that the Civic Engagement Task Force has done, and on the document that Mary referenced earlier that was drafted by members of this community to express what partnership means. We'll be working on the topic of external communication. How many of you were at January seminar and engaged in some of that work around stories, the Stories Project? So we'll be continuing to build on that effort. We'll build on your work. It hasn't been forgotten, hasn't been lost, and it'll be accelerated as we move forward, as we know we need to continue to tell our story better. Pertaining to financial models, we'll continue reviewing our budget process. We'll be extending our budget timeline. We'll be looking at multiple options. We're going to make sure that we fund those things that are most essential to our long-term financial health. And we'll do that by looking at what we need to invest in and where we might be able to grow and where we might need to, where we can perhaps become more efficient. And we'll also be working to integrate Edgewood College Online into our operating budget and looking at the impact of the residence hall in the short and the long term, and looking at how we generate and utilize operating margins to ensure the future success of the college. The last focus area is in the area of internal communication. And at this point, I need to thank members of the transition team. But those of you who are on the transition team, please stand up. Be proud. Come on, stand up. You did great work. So these folks, I see 4 here. Yeah, please join me in thanking. We've got 3 more over there. Now, they had a tough job because basically I just framed up a couple of really broad questions and asked them to give me advice about how I can get off to a good start as president. And I got their report last week. So some of the ideas that they have shared I've been able to incorporate. Others will be important and we'll consider as we move forward. But I'm grateful for their work over what is already a busy summer. I hope that that work of engaging the community starts today with a little different format this morning. I hope you find this to be an appropriate blend of engagement and information. In the next few weeks, I'll be implementing a regular electronic communication to campus. Anybody here recall Dr. Evans' notes from the president's desk? Okay, well, it won't be that. But I mean, Jim did that weekly, and I'm not quite sure that I have as much discipline as Jim did. But I will promise regular communication. It's not meant to be a communication that encompasses everything that's happening on campus, but rather what I observe, what I'm aware of, what I'm involved in, such that I think that can be helpful to all of you or items that you might be interested in. And I expect that we'll spend some time as a community discussing the best use of our college assembly meetings going forward as well. A lot of people have asked me over the past few months, what would be different about my leadership? And that's really hard for me to answer because I believe leadership style is an expression of self. So anything I say could be taken, and that would be unfortunate if that were the case, could be taken as a criticism of other people who've come before or other alternatives that the college community considered. So when I talk about this, when I touch on these key points, I just mean to say that this leadership style is my expression of self in the role of president. And I'd like to touch on just a few things that I think you may notice. I'm going to be available. It's going to start this morning. After these remarks, you'll have a chance to engage with each other, and then I'll be here for a while to listen to your comments, to answer any questions you might have. That's the case today. It was the case with the Dean of Student Staff at their retreat about 2 weeks ago, with the residence assistants the other day. It'll be the case with the School of Arts and Sciences and the School of Education this week, and other schools and departments as the weeks and months wear on. I think being present is an important part of my role as president. I can't promise I'm going to have all the answers. I can't promise you're going to like all the answers that I have. But I can promise that I'll share with you what I know and what I think, and that I'll listen to your comments and questions and take those into consideration. I also plan on hosting office hours regularly, primarily for students, just as a way to make sure that I can hear some of the questions and concerns and the great things that they experience on campus as well. And our President's Council will meet regularly outside the President's Conference Room. It's the darndest thing. We can actually meet in different places. It's strange. And we're going to do that. We'll take our show on the road. We'll be in different buildings throughout the course of the year. And part of that will be so that we can actually engage. Sometimes it's those those chance encounters, and that'll get us in a position where we can have a chance to engage with folks maybe from the sciences that we don't normally see, but that spend every day in Sonderegger, or on we go across campus. Another topic, another question I've heard is, who makes what decisions and how? There's never a perfect answer to that question, but I can promise that what we plan to do is to lend some greater clarity to processes, to create as much participation as is appropriate, and to try to be as clear as we can about the criteria and the timelines and who's involved in making what decisions. And in fact, that work has already started. One of the first things we did as a President's Council was to sort out, for what topics do I have final decision-making authority? Do I have the responsibility myself to make a decision, certainly in consultation with others? What are the sets of things that we as a group make decisions about? And what are the kinds of things that the vice presidents on their own are charged with making decisions on? And we're also trying to incorporate recent research into best practices in decision-making. Anybody here read Thinking Fast and Slow? Anybody? One, few people? Yeah, so you know, so that's some of the work that's informing, as we take a look at how we can be effective decision makers, that's some of the work that's helping to inform that. One final note on that topic is, on the topic of what may be different, you'll notice I'm going to spend a lot of time off campus. And I talked about our community impact. One of the things that I think the president's in a unique situation too, the president represents the college. And so if we talk about being a vital member of the college, of the Greater Madison community, that means I need to be a vital member of the Greater Madison community. It means I need to actually be present in that community. So it means I'll be spending a lot of time with community leaders, both telling our story and listening to how we can become even better. And certainly one of my key partners in that process will be a Vice President for Institutional Advancement. And I anticipate announcing that search in just a few weeks, and you can expect to learn more about that just in the next few weeks. You know, I was recently invited to participate in a session with about 50 community leaders, mostly business leaders in the Madison area. And I was at breakfast. And John Humanek, John's the president and the publisher of the Wisconsin State Journal. So John approaches our table. There's an empty seat. And John says, "Can I join you?" I say, "Of course. Grab a seat." And the person immediately to his right says, "Well, this has really been a tough time in the newspaper industry. So John, tell it to us straight. Now, what's the future of the newspaper industry?" And John doesn't miss a beat. John looks him straight in the eye and says, "It's freaking awesome." And John spent the next 15 or 20 minutes talking to our table about how awesome the future of the newspaper industry is. You've heard me say, and Dean echoed this, that our best days are ahead. I guess that's my version of "it's freaking awesome." Now, why do I believe that? It's not because all the demographics or the financials or any of the rest is all rosy. That's not the case. So why do I believe that our best days are ahead? This is a strong institution. We're strong financially. We've avoided significant debt. We haven't deferred maintenance. We've generated financial margins that we've been able to reinvest in the quality of the learning experience. And we have a small but growing endowment. We have a beautiful, well-maintained facilities here and at Deming Way. Struck by that, you know, all these things sort of come together in the past few days. The work, those of you who had a chance to have some refreshments noticed the work that was done just across the hall. Those of you who've had a chance to stop by my office have seen the work the facilities have done. Would folks from the facilities and maintenance staff that were here, would you please stand up, please? So we can thank you for your work. Thank you guys. Let's go. We are all grateful for your work, and Christy and I need to extend a special thank you for making sure that the President's office is a professional, welcoming work environment. She and I have no excuse now not to be productive. So we have strong and improving student success rates, whether it's retention rates, graduation rates, low debt levels, the stories that you tell, the anecdotes of our student successes. That work of our students while they're here and as alumni is a testament to our work together as a community. And most importantly, we have each of you. I'll say again what I said last spring. I'm excited to work with people who want to be at Edgewood College, who believe in these values, who believe in the elements of an Edgewood College education that I expressed earlier, and who want to do outstanding, exceptional work. When I look around this room, just like I did last spring, I'm more convinced than ever that we're capable of doing even greater things. And we need each of us, if we're to become the institution we're capable of becoming. We need to deliver every day on our promise to students. How does that happen? It happens through faculty who create a challenging and supportive learning environment for our students in the classroom. And it comes from everyone else making sure that that environment extends beyond the classroom, whether it's making sure the facilities are clean, or that the residence halls are safe, or that student activities and athletics and other outlets for student engagement support the learning environment, whether it's making sure the technology works or paying the bills on time or all the rest. We all have a responsibility to carry out our work in delivering on that promise. And it's our responsibility to help our students make connections, to make connections intellectually and interpersonally, especially in these early days of the academic year. We need to participate meaningfully as engaged citizens of this community and of the broader community. Your attendance here today is a great sign, and I look forward to similar attendance at college assembly meetings and other campus forums. And we need to be, in the Dominican tradition, seekers of truth. We can never be satisfied that we have perfect answers to the questions I've raised or many of the others that we'll deal with. And we always must be willing to revise our answers based on what we learn and the changing needs of the world around us. And we can never be afraid to move forward, especially when we're at that intersection of continuity and change. So it can be easy to get scared by some of the things in the outside world, but our institutional strength gives me great hope. And when I think about the needs of the world, actually I get excited about our place. So you've heard me say before that the work we do has never been more important than it is today. You read the same things I do. You hear that the purpose of college education is to help students find good-paying jobs, fast. Well, we believe that preparing students for meaningful professional lives is an important part of what we do. I don't think that anybody would disagree with the idea that our students should be better prepared for the world of work after their Edgewood College experience. We can agree with that. But that little boy that Mary talked about needs more than that. And our world needs more than that. Our world needs engaged, informed citizens. Our world needs scholars determined to ask and explore answers to the complex questions that we face. Our world needs servant leaders willing to contribute to our communities, to share their talents, to help build a better world. Our world needs creative thinkers, artists, and entrepreneurs who compel us, who challenge us, and inspire us to look at the world differently. In short, our world needs, more than it ever has, students who've benefited from an Edgewood College education. And you know what? That's why we're here today. Thank you.